It looks intimidating, but getting the spinal cord is all about getting your bearings. And to do that, all you need to know is one feature, the anterior median fissure. Once you find that, everything falls right into place, and by AMP2, you better know your anatomical directions. So, the anterior median fissure is this giant split along the anterior side of the spinal cord. You can't miss it. So along with that, you have the anterior column of white matter. What's opposite to the anterior or ventral side? The posterior or dorsal side, which can be used interchangeably. I have my own preferences, which you'll notice when we get to the nerves. So opposite that canyon-like crack, the anterior median fissure, is this shallow groove. Okay? This is called the posterior median sulcus. It's on the posterior side. So now we have the posterior column of white matter. Since we already know that this is the anterior column of white matter, what's left? Two lateral columns of white matter, which by default must be here and here. That's it for the white matter. Onto the gray matter, there are three horns you need to know. And since you know which side is which, you can easily identify the anterior horn, posterior horn, and lateral horn of gray matter. Again, anterior horn, posterior horn, lateral horn of gray matter. In the middle is the gray commissure, where the two halves meet. And in the middle of that is the central canal, which runs the entire length of the spinal cord and meets superiorly with the fourth ventricle of the brain. The central canal itself is lined with ependymal cells, some ciliated, and some with microvilli to circulate the cerebral spinal fluid. And although, if we can say ciliated, I'm proposing now that we can also use the term microvilliated. Now we have the nerves. Again, they're based on anatomical directions. I prefer to use dorsal and ventral. You may use posterior and anterior as you wish. We have another very obvious structure here. This is the dorsal root ganglion, here and here. They're on the dorsal root of the spinal nerve. So here we have the anterior root, or the ventral root of the spinal nerve, and here's the spinal nerve itself, here, and you can see here. Lastly, the meninges, or the protective layers of the spinal cord, which are exactly the same as the brain. While not quite shown here, if asked which layer is immediately superficial to this structure, you should know it's the pia mater, as we have in this terrible and poorly drawn, hastily drawn diagram. Pia mater would be here. Next, the subarachnoid space, the arachnoid, the subdural space, and the dura mater. Between the dura mater and the vertebrae, outside here, is the epidural space. And that's it. It all comes down to finding that anterior median fissure. Thank you.